Donald Trump's Chief of Staff, John Kelly, has delivered an emotional defence of the President's sympathy call to the widow of a fallen soldier. Family of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson have denounced the President as insensitive for telling his wife the Special Forces soldier knew what he was in for. And there's been a separate, scathing attack of Donald Trump by no less than former President George W. Bush. Anne Barker reports.
General Kelly knows firsthand the pain of getting that unwanted phone call to break the news of a loved one dying in battle. His own son Robert was killed while serving in Afghanistan 7 years ago, and he's used his own experience to defend President Trump's handling of a condolence call to the widow of Special Forces soldier LaDavid Johnson in Niger.
If you elect to call a family like this, it is about the most difficult thing you could imagine. There's no perfect way to make that phone call.
Donald Trump has been accused of insensitivity after a Democrats Congresswoman, Frederica Wilson, overheard the president's phone conversation with the soldier's young widow when he reportedly said her husband must have known what he signed up for. General Kelly has attacked the Congresswoman for politicising the issue.
I was stunned when I came to work yesterday morning and brokenhearted at what I saw a member of Congress doing. A member of Congress who listened in on a phone call from the President of the United States to a young wife, and in his way tried to express that opinion. He's a brave man, a fallen hero. He knew what he was getting himself into because he enlisted.
The White House Chief of Staff has also revealed it was him who advised President Trump on how to make the call, despite initially advising him not to call the soldier's bereaved wife at all.
So he called 4 people the other day and expressed his condolences in the best way that he could. And he said to me, "What do I say?" I said to him, "Sir, there's nothing you can do to lighten the burden on these families. But let me tell you what I tell them. And let me tell you what my best friend, Joe Dunford, told me, because he was my casualty officer. He said, Kel, he was doing exactly what he wanted to do when he was killed. He knew what he was getting into by joining that 1%.
But others have joined the criticism of Donald Trump. Sergeant Johnson's aunt, who raised the soldier as her son, says the president showed disrespect to his family. And Michelle Defford, the mother of a soldier who died in Iraq, says the White House should put someone else in charge of making such calls.
You can do so much more damage because those thoughts will stay in your mind the rest of your life. You'll always remember that. And it is clearly the worst day of your life. And that trip to the airport to pick up the body of your loved one is a trip that every moment of it is cemented into your memory. So to have that trip interrupted by that call, unimaginable. My heart goes out to that family. I wished I could just give them a hug.
This latest criticism of Donald Trump has been compounded by a far stronger attack on his presidency by one of his predecessors, George W. Bush. He's launched a stinging rebuke of the state of America under Mr. Trump's leadership, albeit without mentioning the president's name.
We've seen our discourse degraded by casual cruelty. At times it can seem like the forces pulling us apart are stronger than the forces binding us together. Argument turns too easily into animosity. Disagreement escalates into dehumanization. Too often we judge other groups by their worst examples, while judging ourselves by our best intentions.
The former president also decried the rise of bullying, bigotry and prejudice in American society.
People of every race, religion, ethnicity can be fully and equally American. It means that bigotry or white supremacy in any form is blasphemy against the American creed. And it means the very identity of our nation depends on the passing of civic ideals to the next generation. Bullying and prejudice in our public life sets a national tone, provides permission for cruelty and bigotry, and compromises the moral education of children. The only way to pass along civic values is to first live up to them.
Former US President George W. Bush, ending that report by Anne Barker.